Hello and welcome everyone to today's WorkSafe Month webinar, Respect and Culture Workplace 2020. I'm Stephanie Morawski from WorkSafe Tasmania and I will be your moderator. Before we start, please take a moment to read the following slide about information received today. I'll now go over housekeeping. Here is a screenshot of the attendee control panel. You should see something that looks like this on the right hand of your screen. You're likely listening in using your computer's speaker system by default. If you would prefer to listen over the phone, please select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. Webcams and audience microphones will not be used in today's webinar. Questions will be taken at the end of the presentation. Please use the questions pane on your control panel to type and submit your questions. Finally, today's webinar is being recorded. I would now like to introduce today's presenter, Ros Taylor from Respect at Work. Ros is the Director of Respect at Work. Respect at Work is a Tasmanian small business that has been in operation since 2017. Ros has been facilitating discussions about workplace behaviour, appropriate communication, bullying, harassment and discrimination for 25 years and is passionate about positive and respectful workplace cultures. Welcome, Ros.
Thanks, Steph. Is it my turn?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. Sorry for some little teething issues at the beginning there. Look, I know there's so many absolutely fantastic webinars going on this month. I think I registered for 6. Yeah, I can just appreciate how lucky we are to have such a great source of information. Just a little bit of background to add to my introduction that Stephanie just gave. I started RAW Respect at Work 3 years ago, and the main reason was because I know that our workplaces can be more respectful and supportive. I know that we can be more respectful and supportive. And what I wanted was to simplify and provide reminders about what is a respectful workplace culture, because none of this is rocket science. We get busy. We sometimes forget to be nice to each other. We forget what it means to be respectful. And yet the impact of getting this wrong is it can be disastrous. People that would rather drive into a tree than go to work. People that tell me that they can't drive down the street where their workplace is. People that say that they vomit when they see their uniform in the cupboard. These are the reasons that I wanted to make it simpler. The impact from a toxic workplace can cause so much harm, and I don't think it needs to. I think we can make it easier. So that's what today's about. The plan is, what I want to talk about today is a little on values. Of course, what is respect and what is respectful communication. The next dot point there, I actually called it, obviously I'm going to talk about COVID, but I called it grateful to be at work with a question mark there for a reason. I was chatting to someone fairly recently, a couple of weeks ago, and this lady, she works in Tasmania, but she's part of a national company. And, you know, we were talking about COVID, of course, and I was saying how grateful I am. And I'm very grateful to be in Tassie and the situation that we're in. And this lady was saying, okay, yes, however, for her, being part of a national company, the extra pressure that she feels being a Tasmanian was almost like she felt she was expected to suck up a lot of her stresses because of this, but you're in Tasmania, so it's not as bad as someone else's impact. And so as well as everything else that she was dealing with, because we're all in different stages of this, as well as that, she had this absolutely extra stress to try and deal with. And I just thought that was a really interesting perspective that we don't always talk about or think about, because we really shouldn't be comparing. We shouldn't be comparing each other's experience with these things. Perspectives and bystanders, I'm going to cover a little on that, and finishing up with moving on. Now, I decided for today not to do any polls. And with the morning, perhaps it wouldn't have, after our disasters getting started, maybe they wouldn't have worked, so that's a good thing. What I've done instead is I've taken the liberty to already assume your answers. However, I've got this question here. How do you want to feel at work? And what I would like, if you've got a piece of paper, just jot down a couple of things, or just have a think about, how do you want to feel when you're at work? Okay, so I can't see the chat box. If you type anything, I won't be able to see it, but just take a second. And because I have no patience, I'm just going to put them straight up. Now, this question, how do you want to feel at work? I ask this at every training session I go to. And the words I've popped up here on the screen, this is a pretty fair representation of the ones that I hear the most often. For me, I want to feel safe. Obviously, I want to feel physically safe, but I want to feel psychologically safe when I'm at work. I want to feel that I'm going to be understood and supported when I'm at my workplace. Other words, oh gosh, I want to feel happy. Am I going to be happy every minute of every day? Probably not, because it's work. But at the same time, I have the right to feel happy. I want to feel appreciated. I want to feel productive. And when you think about it, these are words that we're all entitled to feel, every single one of us. And yet when people are telling me these words, they say things like, oh, I wish I felt valued. Like, what? That's just crazy, isn't it? These are things that we all have the right to feel at work. And this is the thing that's attached to these words, these values. When I have these, when I feel these things, I mean, I like to think I work hard most of the time. But when I have these things, I actually bring more of myself. I bring more energy, I bring more focus, I bring more motivation. When I feel like my contributions are being valued, I'm happier to contribute. So you're getting more out of me. My productivity increases, and let's attach that to some dollars. So it's a win-win for everybody. The flip side, however, if I'm in a workplace where I don't have these things, where I don't feel these things, I might actually withdraw. My communication suffers. And what happens in that case is we generally fill the silences with negativity. My negativity, of course, is contagious. My resilience is lower, and it really starts to impact. So these words, we know we're entitled. I know I'm entitled. I have to remember to also give what I'm getting as well, though. So this, how do you want to feel at work? I think it's really important to just take a minute and think about that. But moving on, what is respect? I would say about 80% of the workplaces that I go to have respect as one of their workplace values. And yet when I ask people, what is respect? There's this, or we're not sure, or we're not exactly sure how to define it. So what I've done here, I've just popped in a couple of a definition that I particularly like. So respect is, well, on a practical level, respect includes taking someone's needs, thoughts, ideas, wishes, and preferences into consideration. It means taking them seriously and giving them worth and value. In fact, giving someone respect seems similar to valuing them and their thoughts and their feelings, etc. What is respect? Another word, perhaps, I think, and it's not exact. If we were looking for a definition, why is my clicker not clicking? There we go. Nope. Steph, I've gone too far. Can you go back? There we go. If we were looking for another word, perhaps, and it's not an exact definition at all, but maybe it's easier. Respect is kindness. Kindness is respect. We all know what kindness is. It's not too much to ask. It's a word that most of us have grown up with. So if that's going to work for you, if that's simpler than trying to define it any other way, go with that. You know, be kind at work. Easy. But going back to the definitions of respect for a second, do I have to like someone to be able to respect them? If you think about it, if I came to your workplace, would I like everyone? And I'm going to suggest probably not. Would everyone like me? Probably not. The simple fact is, whether you like me or not, I have just as much right to be there as anyone else does. And if we're working without respect, our clients are going to notice. This is a professional outfit. I'm not talking about we've all gone out for lunch. It's nice to have friends. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great? And when I am relating to friends, perhaps it's a little bit differently. I'm talking about a workplace where our role is to be professional. And whether you like me or not, you do have to respect me, and vice versa. I love this this saying right here. This is, sorry, a quote. This is from the author of Crucial Conversations. Respect is like air. As long as it's present, no one thinks about it. But if you take it away, it's all that people can think about. I really like that, because how often do we sit around in our tea rooms or sit around in our staff meetings and going, oh, look at us being respectful? We don't, do we? The only time we really think and talk about respect is when we don't have it. And then it's all we can focus on. So perhaps we're just taking it for granted. Quite simply, I expect respect from my colleagues, and they should absolutely expect it from me. Taking that a little further, if respectful once, am I always? So I have a business called Respect at Work, so that's a little badge perhaps. I think about respect a lot. I try to be the most respectful I possibly can, but I think if you were to ask one of my family members, any of my family members potentially, they're going to say, no, I'm not. It's not, I can't take it for granted either. Like any other value, respect is something that we need to continually be conscious of, have reminders, and work on, like any other value. Respectful cultures don't just happen, they rely on respectful relationships, and our respectful relationships rely on respectful people. That's us. That's our job. That's who we are, who we need to be. Every single one of us is responsible for our workplace culture. Without respect, there's little trust, and our workplace productivity relies on trust. From there, I am a really strong advocate for getting communication right. I really, really strongly believe that it's the foundation for having a great workplace. But if you stop and think about it, what is good communication? So when I was putting this together, I thought, okay, I'm going to try and find a nice definition for respectful communication. What I came up with was pretty much the same as my definition for what is respect. Because those words that I've got highlighted there, this is what respectful communication is about. If we're going to communicate respectfully, we're acknowledging, we're listening, we're valuing, we're taking other people's thoughts, etc., into consideration. Same slide. Or to look at it a different way, or break it down, I guess, as I said, communication is about listening. And we have to be doing that absolute, genuine listening, ears on. We need to be considering other people's perspectives, but we need to give and receive feedback. If I want to feel that I'm valued and appreciated in the workplace, I need to be open to be receiving feedback, both positive and negative, but in a fair and safe and open manner. And I need to also be able to reciprocate and give feedback as well. The other thing about respectful communication is if I have an issue or a niggle at work, if I'm going to be respectful to myself and to that other person, I need to be able to go to the right person with my issue. So not gossiping. Gossiping is not respectful at all. If I want to get a resolution to an issue, going and gossiping about it to other people and not talking to the person that I have the issue with is hardly respectful to anyone. And yes, sometimes going to the person that you have a problem with can be tricky. So in that case, I need a plan B. But gossiping to everyone else is not the plan B. People need to be able to feel safe to raise an issue. We need to be confident that that issue will be received and handled appropriately without us having to shout about it or feel that we're out of line. Over the years, I've come across many respondents to complaints, many people that are on the other side of the complaint, and they say, well, why didn't anyone tell me? Why didn't the person just come and tell me that they had an issue before it got out of hand, before they made a complaint? It's pretty simple. If they don't feel safe to do so, and that can have a whole bunch of connotations, if they don't feel safe to do so in a nice, simple manner, then they're not going to. So make it easy. Communication doesn't have to be too hard. From there, because I'm racing through, I wanted to start talking about COVID. Whoops, about to go too far. So, wow, 2020, what a year to test our resilience. All of the things that I've already spoken about in the last 14, 15 minutes, they are and they always have been and always will be important. Getting communication right, thinking about respect, thinking about our values, all of those things always have been and always will be. But perhaps they're especially important now during this period. We've had, for some of us, for many people, these words that I've got on this screen have been their reality. Either have been, are being their reality. The Australian Bureau of Statistics have said that 46% of Australians have worked from home during this period. For some of those people, working from home has actually provided a buffer, a safe environment. If your workplace has been toxic, then this period of working from home has actually given people, sometimes built their confidence and made it safe so that they don't go home and 3 hours after they get home, their stomach's still in a knot. Some people have actually expressed to me that they never want to go back to work. They never want to have to go back to the workplace. They're scared. And that's really sad for other people, of course, because there's no correct or incorrect in this. For other people, they say, oh, I can't stand it. I need to get back to work. And you know what? I think it's really important that we take all of these as normal reactions to what's a very abnormal situation. With that as well, some people who haven't previously been very responsive to change may now be absolutely the opposite. And people that previously embraced change may now be really struggling. So again, a whole bunch of different variations of how people might be responding. What we need to do is listen to them. This was a report that came out in August this year. So the Australian Human Resources Institute released this report. It's a summation of responses to a series of questions that were posed to 233 HR leaders in Australia. And it says there at the bottom, Steph, it looks like the link's been cut off this slide, so maybe we can pop it in the to people afterwards, after the webinar perhaps. But it says that 38% of people believe that COVID adversely impacted on their organisational culture, and yet 42% believe the opposite. It's almost an even split, isn't it? So half the people are going, yep, adversely impacted. No, it didn't. And what is written on that slide there, 84% suggests that the crisis is forcing their organisation to think, see, feel, plan and act differently. That's fabulous if that seeing, thinking, feeling, planning and acting is positive. If they're getting things, if they're doing it right, that's fantastic. Okay. Another slide from this report, many people feel that their employees generally believe the organisation will persevere and bounce back. Great, fantastic. There's a lot of information I've come across recently and speakers that I've listened to that have talked about how this COVID period is certainly not a time for change. Avoid any change in your workplace. I'm going to disagree a little in that if your workplace was less than ideal, maybe this is the perfect time to create positive change. So I think when people are saying don't change a thing, it's if it's already going well. Otherwise, maybe take advantage of the fact that there are so many changes and look at if anything can be fixed. Listen to your staff. They're the people that know. Perhaps this situation may have caused your people to have a better idea about what is going to work best for them, how they work best. Ask the right questions and then allow opportunities for positive change. The last slide that I've put in here with information from this report, I don't know how large your screens are, but on the left-hand side there is one that says these are the enablers of a successful workplace culture, and on the right are what are the barriers. What I love about this is the overlap. Have a look there. Things like communication, technology, leadership, management, trust, support, they're on both slides. So they're equally an enabler and a barrier, depending on how you're managing them. So let's really work to embed the positive changes again and learn from the more negative or the frustrating ones. This is something that we can all actively be involved in. What our workplaces need always, but especially now, is the things on this page. We need transparency, communication, support is so important. Now more than ever, invest in your people. And I sound like I'm talking to managers, but invest in us. Because if you don't, you're in danger of losing some of your best assets. This is a period of opportunity. I know it doesn't always feel like that. I don't know if this is something that you have previously done in your workplaces. If it isn't, start now. If it is, keep doing it. But walk around your workplace. Get the vibe. What's it like? Is there silence? Is it comfortable or awkward? Are staff engaging or avoiding? Turn your workplace into somewhere where people want to be. Don't just walk around and go back to your office. Walk around, notice things, and take action. All of us. Quickly want to mention bystanders. Bystanders can be an absolutely powerful resource for a workplace, but the role of a bystander is not to just take someone else's issue and run a hole in the carpet on the way to HR, but a bystander as a resource, a bystander's choice of empathy or indifference can make a huge difference. However, I've heard people say that they can't act as a bystander because then they'll become the target or that speaking up is actually too hard. But a bystander intervention, it can be something as simple as changing the subject, asking if someone's okay. We're right on the back of Are You OK Day. We're in the middle of Mental Health Month. Give someone some gentle eye contact. That can be a bystander intervention. Ask someone, hey, I'm going to go and grab a cup of tea. Would you like one? I'm going to go for a walk. Would you like to come? Or maybe it's bringing attention to behaviour. If you're seeing behaviour that is not okay, perhaps you can go to the person doing that behaviour and say, hey, I'm not sure if you realised, but you sounded a bit abrupt, or whatever it happens to be. Bystanders have such an important role to play. But our job for us in our workplaces is to help all of our bystanders to feel comfortable and safe. So it's back to that same word of making people feel safe in a workplace. Another quote, this is one from a book that I really love, Daniel Coyle, The Culture Code. The number one job is to take care of each other. I didn't always know that, but I know it now. Let's look after each other. It's called duty of care. Back to this poster again, just one more time. Our input, your voice, your ears, they're all powerful tools that can contribute to the culture that you want and you're willing to accept. If we work together, we've got the capacity to get this right. I want to finish with this slide here. I have the right to be shown respect, dignity, consideration. To me, my culture, my beliefs, my values, my personal characteristics. You don't have to like me. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to like my lifestyle, but you do have to respect me. I have just as much right to be here as you do. The other side of that, I have a responsibility to be courteous and respectful towards others, and I've popped in brackets especially the ones I'm not friends with. It's really easy to be respectful to the people you like, but we don't like everyone. On my website, if you're interested in them at all, you can download those posters. They're there free, help yourself. They're just meant to be simple reminders for let's just get it right. The purple poster there, I also have that as little fridge magnets. So if you would like one of those, just scoop me an email, say that you were part of the webinar, and I will very happily post out one of those for you. Now, I feel like that's been incredibly fast. Half an hour goes so quickly. As I said at the beginning, it was just meant to be a simple way of little reminders, a little bit of thought to start conversations in your workplaces. Once again, thank you so much for attending. Really, really appreciate that. I feel quite flattered with the number of people that registered. And Steph, over to you if there were any questions, please.
All right, thank you, Ros. So yes, if anyone has any questions that they would like Ros to respond to, please type your questions into the questions pane on your control panel. So just a few comments that came through at the start, Ros, when you talked about how do you want to feel at work. Some responses included respected, belonging, valued, supported. I want to feel respected in what I do, value and appreciated.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very common words. Valued and valuable too.
Thanks, Ros. Ros's presentation has also been recorded, so it will be available on the WorkSafe Tasmania YouTube page at the close of WorkSafe month, so after the 30th of October. So another comment that has come through, Ros, identify with the not wanting to return to the workplace after working from home. It took 3 sessions with EAP to feel comfortable with it.
That's just tragic, isn't it? I hope that helped. Thank you for sharing that. I hope that the EAP was able to give you some great strategies for yourself and for the team, I guess. I'm not sure of your situation, but we really need to be thinking about that. The impact that some people have gone through and just trying to go back into work is not as simple. I always think of it, it's a bit like perhaps going back to school after the Christmas holidays, back before we had social media, where you've stayed in touch with some and not with others, and for some people you may have been bullied, and how do you feel about going back into that culture? And back then we used to just throw people in, but I think we can be much more generous and considerate than that.
All right, thanks, Ros. So a question, what would you do in this situation? A worker was out of the office working from home, and when they returned, they had been moved from having their own office to having a share room with 2 others. The worker is feeling disrespected, but there is no consultation or opportunity to negotiate. It is just deal with it.
Okay, I would be asking questions back. Why is there no opportunity for consultation? Do you mean there was no consultation for that to happen, that they've gone back into a mixed office? I'm curious as to why. My response to most things is, why did that happen? Where's the gap? Is it possible to have a conversation with someone? If not, why not? Yeah, I'm coming back with a whole bunch of questions to you. I'm sorry, it's tricky. Happy for you to scoop me an email if you want any thoughts on that, but I wish I could give a better answer. Is there anyone that you can talk to? Anyone? It's not good enough that it's just that's the way it is and there's no one to talk to. Yeah, sorry, it's probably the best I've got.
Thanks, Ros. What would you suggest the worker does to address feeling their role is not respected?
Again, I'm going to go, because I can't express enough that I think communication is so important in all of this. Is there somebody that you can actually speak to about this. So with your role, Steph, again, tell me what that was. The person was feeling that their role was not respected. Was that
Uh,
right?
yes, not respected.
Yeah. Okay. So why do you feel like it's not respected? Make some points down. What is it about this that you feel? Is it a new role? Is it an old role? Is it because you're a new position, new person in that role? Where's the gap? Who is it exactly that's not respecting? Because that general term is it's pretty broad, isn't it? Um, it needs to be unpacked a little bit further, but it really needs a conversation again. You know, you can't. The trouble is when somebody has an issue and all they can do is try and solve it completely on their own, you're up against a brick wall. You need someone in your corner, which is why I'm saying bystanders are important, and go to the person. Hopefully there's someone on your management team, perhaps HR, that you can speak to that might be of benefit. There's the EAPs, of course, but that's not going to change anything. It's going to help you be stronger, but it may not change anything. Again, happy to have an email if that helps.
Thanks, Ros. Another question. Just interested in the walk around. Do you have any suggestions for simple and small things that we can do to make a difference?
uh, yes, yeah, well, sort of. Get up off your chairs, wander around, have conversations. I don't know if you are a manager or an employee. As a manager, there are things that you can do. Talk to people. As an employee, again, talk to people, but be open, be receptive. As a manager, be interested, engage. Take note. If you're noticing that there are absolute gaps, then go back and sit down. Maybe again, it depends on your team and where you're starting from, I guess, with this process. Can you have a conversation? Like, hey guys, I went to this awesome webinar with Ros the other day, and and she suggested that we all sit around the table and talk about our culture. What do you think? Are we doing it well? Are there any gaps? Let's look at attach it to your values. We've said that we want to be a respectful team, but what does that mean for us? What do you think respect is? And try and invite conversations around there that are really inclusive. Not sure if that helps, hopefully a little. Steph?
Thanks, Ros. Thanks, Ross. Another question. Can you please elaborate on the need for respect, especially for the people's differences in diverse work environment?
Elaborate on the need for respect, especially in a diverse environment. Uh, um, wow, if again, right from the very beginning, if you're not respecting, if you don't feel respected, if you don't feel valued, then you're not bringing your whole self. As far as diversity, I should be free to be whoever I am. And when I am, if I'm trying to, let me see, dampen down a part of who I am, if I'm trying to hide a part of my diversity, or I feel like I just can't be included, then that's going to impact on my capacity to do my job. So can I elaborate more about why it's important? It's important so you're getting the best from every single one of your team. Our teams are made of people. Our cultures are made of people. And we need to allow them to be their absolute best selves, or we're not going to get the best productivity out of it. So can I elaborate on why? It's because we are all individual. Steph?
Thanks, Ross. So a couple of comments that have come through. Consultation is central to WHS and respectful workplaces.
Mm-hmm.
Another comment, thanks, Roz. I have the mindset that if I don't like or get along with someone because of the way they treat others, that I can still be respectful, but I don't have to respect them. But I need to rethink this.
Yeah, I think sometimes a lot of people say that you have to earn respect, and that's part of what perhaps you're expressing there. I think every single person is entitled to a level of respect, whether we like them or not, or whether we agree with them, or whether we like their behaviours. Perhaps the word that we're saying we have to earn is trust. I can respect you as a person. I don't necessarily have to trust you or, as I said, have to like you, but I can have a professional, respectful relationship. And if you have to, in some jobs, it's really hard to respect your clients or your customers, and so we fake it, don't we? We don't always like our clients, but we don't have much choice about that if it's part of our job. So we're doing the best we can. We're respecting, but not necessarily, again, liking.
Thanks, Ros. Another comment that's come through. I remained in the office, however, I found the returning employees really difficult and disrespectful, i.e. social distancing, and very complacent. It has been extremely stressful.
Yeah, I'm hearing you entirely. Is there? It's really hard when you're doing the best as well. And I come across it. Sometimes I do one-on-one trainings with individuals, and often that person might be someone who's so very professional and likes things done in the right way, and they know that, and they really find it hard to, I'm going to use the word, tolerate people that are perhaps not doing things to the standard that they're expecting. That can be really such a tough thing to deal with. Again, a trusted ally, having an opportunity to find a way to not get triggered by someone else's actions, understanding that we're all different, understanding that we all have a different style of working, and we each bring something else to the workplace. Maybe that will help a little bit in those strategies. It can be really tricky. Make sure that you've got some self-care, and if you can find someone that you trust that you can speak to, that can really help as well.
All right, thanks, Ros. Another comment that you might like to respond to. My colleague is rude and constantly puts me down in front of others and clients.
Oh, that's a big, long one. Yes, we've all potentially worked with one of those at times, and perhaps even been one of those at times. I really need to have a conversation with you. Can you address this person? Can you come in a really conciliatory manner and talk to them and say, I'm struggling with this? With some people you can't, and I get that. So I'm not saying it's all love and rainbows and it's just as easy as saying, hello, I'd like to have a chat. Sometimes you try and talk to someone and they refuse to listen, and that's when perhaps you need a plan B. Think about your workplace again. Is there someone in management or HR that you trust enough that you are able to raise this with them? It might be that the workplace situation is such that you guys are never going to get along, but this person's rudeness is not okay either. So you don't need to be friends, but you need to, if the person's behaviours is causing harm, then that's not okay and it needs to be addressed. How that's addressed is, I'm hoping you have a great HR system and they can, someone will help you out with that. But it's not a simple, none of this is ever just a nice simple tick. It takes 2 minutes to get a bad culture. It can take years to get rid of it. And it's not always easy. It can be quite exhausting, but I'm sorry, it's just essential. I'm sorry if that doesn't quite answer your question or help, but there's quite a lot to that. Again, scoop me an email if you like. Steph?
Thanks, Ros. Another question. In my experience as a WHS professional, I've witnessed a reluctance from managers to act when senior staff have bullied their subordinates. Is this common, and do you have any suggestions to address this?
Unfortunately, it's probably more common than we would like. Interestingly, I've seen it in all different types of workplaces as well. Look, trying to get managers to get buy-in. Oh, I was listening to someone else's webinar the other day, and she was saying, almost use COVID as this is our reason to start thinking about how we're treating people. So almost use it as an excuse to try and engage and get that buy-in. There's something wrong, or we're in this situation, let's see what we can do. Perhaps there's a way of getting the manager's care factor to come in from looking at productivity. If we can get this cultural stuff right, people will work harder, which equals more money for us. Maybe that's part of it. But somehow or another, getting some sort of getting people to collaborate as a workplace, getting the managers to absolutely commit. It's not easy. You need something to engage that buy-in. Generally, people can be really comfortable to dismiss these things until it hits them personally. So try and find whatever it is that taps in to get their care factor up. And then again, sometimes it's also just, you know what, there's no question, you know, we have to, there's legislation, there's WorkSafe legislation. We need to be looking after our staff. We need to engage in duty of care. Too bad for you. We have to get involved in this. Not sure if that helps. Steph?
Thanks, Ros. Question, do you have any data to emphasise the productivity benefits of psychological safety?
There is an absolute bucket load of data out there, absolutely bucket load. Do I have it with me right now? No, I don't. If you scoop me an email, I can certainly happy to scoot you out a whole bunch of references and a whole bunch of studies, obviously not done by me. But yeah, there's plenty of information out there around productivity and yeah, around productivity and getting it right. Steph?
Thanks, Ros. How do you distinguish between disrespect and bullying?
Okay, I hate the bullying word. I was very, very much engaged in workplace bullying and went to lots of conferences around Australia on bullying a few years ago, and I was really focusing on that word until I realised that no matter how much I talked about bullying, people still weren't necessarily understanding what it is and what it isn't. And we tend to use that term, I've been bullied, for so many things. Of course, there's a definition through Fair Work and WorkSafe on what actually is bullying, but it still doesn't give us this nice one-page dot points of exactly what it is, because it's open to interpretation. And disrespect can absolutely be a factor. Disrespect, if I disrespect you, it can cause me to exclude. It can cause me to isolate. It can cause me to speak down to you. It can cause me to do all of those things that can contribute to what would essentially be a bullying complaint, things that would fit a definition. But there's a whole bunch of things before even we get to looking at bullying. Incivility. Someone who doesn't say good morning can cause so much grief in a workplace, and potentially that can get captured as one little tiny element in a bullying complaint. But either way, all of these behaviours that contribute to bullying come from a culture of disrespect. If you're respecting, then you shouldn't be creating behaviours that are uncivil or bullying. Steph?
Thanks, Ros. How would you deal with a boss that downgrades an employee's work despite that boss having trust in that employee, but never actually saying or appreciating the work that they do?
Okay, the boss has trust but downgrades. Was that correct,
Yes,
Steph? Yeah, okay.
yes.
Again, you know, I'm sorry, I'm sounding like a broken record, aren't I? Again, it's why. Again, I'm curious, if the boss is trusting, then why aren't they demonstrating that? And is it as simple as they haven't even thought about it? They don't realize that that's such a great thing to do, to appreciate someone. Are they meaning to downgrade? Are they trusting but just taking advantage of someone perhaps? Are you in a situation where you can, again, sorry, but can you talk to your boss? Really curious about why. The fact that you're saying that however, they do trust you makes me curious. Is it just bad management? Because wouldn't it be wonderful if all the managers got an injection saying, here you are, now you know everything about being a great people manager? As we know, a lot of managers are great at their job, but maybe have never had any training on how to manage people and respond to that. So, again, you know, big question. They're all big questions essentially. Does it help if I say scoop me an email again if you wish? Sorry, Steph.
No, thanks, Ros. So, yes, we will send those people who have attended Ros's webinar today her email. So if you do want to follow up on any aspects of the presentation or ask Ros a question, plus if you wanted to get any other information from Ros too. And Ros, another question: how do you tackle when someone in a management position is causing issues?
I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry. There are many managers in many manager positions in many workplaces that are part of contributing to the problems. I guess my question is, how many other managers are there? Are there in that workplace? Are there others that you can, again, speak to? Who's asking the question? Is it an HR asking the question about the management team? Is it an employee? What's the position that this person is in? Managers should be made responsible and accountable just as much as anyone else should. It's as simple as that. Accountability refers to every single person in the workplace, including the CEO. It's obviously much harder in some cases to make the CEO accountable. However, when I go to a workplace, I always ask people, can you think of 1, 2, and then 3 managers that you could go to if you needed to, if you had an issue? And the reason I ask people to think of 2 and 3 is because your issue might end up being with that first person that you would normally go to. Or maybe they're not unavailable, but you really need to have options. And if you're lucky enough to be in a workplace where this exists, that's awesome. If not, I know some companies use outside HR agencies. Hopefully you've got an employee assistance service in your workplace. Sorry, I know I've gone off the question a little, but again, it's another big question. Yes, managers do cause trouble just like anyone else can, and should be held accountable, but it depends on your workplace as to what the best way to make that happen is. Yeah, sorry, Steph. Next.
No, thanks, Ros. So just a couple of comments that have come through. Loving this conversation. It's not rocket science. Let's talk to each other with respect.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Absolutely.
And another comment, it's really difficult when a colleague's toxic behaviour is widely known about management, but they have no idea how to act upon it and want to avoid the toxic colleague's negative responses to formal feedback. Not great for staff morale.
Yeah, and I do hear you. Slightly in manager's defence, it can be very, very difficult to deal with a bullying complaint or to deal with someone who's being toxic in a workplace. Often it's very hard to put your finger on an exact, nice black and white, this is what the issue is, and that's what makes it difficult. It can really impact on everyone else in the workplace, and it's a very sad situation. Again, finding people to help build you up while you're through that, and self-care. There are so many webinars this month on wellbeing and self-care. I suggest listen to them all, or everyone listen to them all, because there's some really, we need to be better. We need to be better at looking after ourselves and looking after each other.
Thanks, Ros. Just to finish up, a few have also asked about training that you offer. Is it statewide, for example?
Yep, absolutely. Again, if you go to the website, there's a page. I'm not sure which page. I think it's the contact me page, maybe, and it's got the training fees, but really simple. Of course, I go statewide, absolutely. The general session is just 2 hours, but then that can get added to depending on what people might need. Conversations in teams is one of my favourite things to do. When you do it proactively, that's my absolute favourite, but unfortunately I'm often there because there's been some sort of a niggle, and just letting people know they have permission to speak and prioritise respect is a really good thing. So yeah, absolutely, that's what I do.
All right, thank you very much, Ros.
Thanks, Steph.
So, okay, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, Respect and Culture Workplace 2020. As I mentioned, we will send out attendees Roz's email contact details if anyone wants to contact Roz about any of the information that she has talked about in her webinar, or ask Roz any further questions. Today's webinar has also been recorded. It will be available on the WorkSafe Tasmania YouTube page at the end of WorkSafe month, so after the 30th of October. Once you leave today's webinar, you will also receive a survey on the presentation. We do appreciate you providing us with your feedback as well. On behalf of WorkSafe Tasmania and the WorkCover Tasmania Board, thank you for joining us, and thank you, Roz from Respect at Work.
Thank you. Cheers, everyone.